Everybody, welcome back to Financial Trading Basics. As you can see, we are back on the markets. So I did some major portfolio readjustments. Again, I don't have constitutional rights, so if you're watching this, I've been carrying financial damages of not having constitutional rights for over a decade. And so my portfolio construction is going to be a little different than most people my age. But I'm just going to talk you through. And again, my rights being violated, that's not me bitching. That's me giving you reason as to why I'm constructing my portfolio the way that I have been, or I just did. So obviously, well, if you followed this at all, I've sold my house. I owned a house in full. It seemed to make the most sense, but since I still don't have constitutional rights, I did. There was no point, and I hated having a house. So, point being is I sold that. That was my biggest holding, and so I've deposited into my account right now. You're looking at Duolingo. Just a quick trade. Like I said, I'm not going to make a video, and after this video, you'll see why. But I'm pretty much done trading. Well, not done trading, but there's just no point. I know we'll get to that because that's why I've constructed my portfolio the way it has been. But point being is, you're looking at Duolingo. I lost $10 today, but it is not a unique, but a scenario I don't think I've covered. Basically, just oversold things I think are oversold. A company like Duolingo, where they have real revenue, they have brand recognition, and then they come out with their earnings and it's good and they beat everything they say, and then the stock plummets 40%. What's it at? Minus 30, 26.85, and so you're going from 260 a share down to 185 currently. I played it long twice this morning, made like $3 on my first one, and then lost the $11 total on the day. And so, even like I said, I was going to have in my recent videos, I was going to keep my risk tolerance right around $100 a week, which I might even decrease to just like $100 a month. So what I did is I put on my boomer hat, and I searched all of the couch cushions for every penny I could find, and I've just allocated all of my money to fixed income. And so SGov and chill is what we are doing big time. And so if you could just see here, I have about 575, or right around 600,000. Again, this is I've never cleared, if anyone's watching this, I have never cleared $12,500 of net income in my life. That is what is the minimum requirement to file taxes. And so you can see I have one video called Attempting to Pay Taxes, and that's when I cashed all this out to have a record, but I documented it anyway. But point being is, I've been carrying, or you can write off crime on your taxes. That's 100% a legitimate thing. So I've been carrying so much damages for so long. It's just I don't know what to do. I objectively don't know what to do. Again, it's the government that is committing crimes against me. I'm not some political dude. I am just your average Joe trying to live a life. I discovered mathematics and physics that has engineering applications that are classified. And so my point being is I can't go out into society. If you're watching this, or you can go out into the world and get a job. You can go out and start a business. I very legitimately can't. And so these are my small tokens. Some people still might say that's some money, but I have no potential for more income whatsoever. None, zero. And so I'm over here thinking, what changes my lifestyle? Because any portfolio construction, which sure you've heard a million times if you've looked for or managed money before to any capacity, is what do you want out of your money? And so I'm over here thinking, what do I want? I'm not going to buy a house again. I'm not going to do some big traveling. My expenses, I'm effectively functioning as a retired person, and I have no kids with no big debt. And so really I'm just trying to maximize my cash flow with as little depreciation to my initial capital as possible. So the only real security is treasury bonds. And now, in theory, nothing is secure, right? But if the United States Treasury is going up in shit, there's going to be crime in the streets. You're going to go Mad Max and the Book of Eli. It's going to be the apocalypse before you're going to have to worry about the treasuries not paying out. They might. There's no reason they couldn't. But point being is, it's the most stable I could have come up with. And so looking at, for this is the rest of 2025, so about $2,200 a month. You can see it's virtually all in SGov, which is just the most basic secured 0 to 3 month treasury bonds. And I think currently it's right around 4.1%. So obviously an increase from the change percent that I had in my high yield savings account or as a money market, but I haven't really looked at those rates, but it's still similar. I mean, you can get between, again, the 3 to 4%, depending on what the Fed does. Again, all of my videos are posted the same day that they're recorded. So that's what I'm looking at there, just the guaranteed $25,000 a year. And I have my alcohol stipend, which is $10,000 a year. I got that in October of this year, and then I've guaranteed that for another 2 years. So I've guaranteed income of right around, low 30,000s for the next 3 years. So, like, I don't know. Again, it's like I don't have constitutional rights. So it's like this is all things considered. Again, I'm the victim of crime actively right now, all of the time. This is the best thing I can do. Because if I'm even saying, like, if I'm looking at their trading, right? Because, like I said, I don't want to buy anything either. Like, so let's go and say I have a good day trading and I make $1,000, $2,000. Right? I have a functioning camera. The only thing I can even think of that I might want to do differently is just buy a camera that might have a different functionality. Like a continuously running camera where I'm doing my readings in Spanish or English or my book reports. If I just want a camera that records longer. And that's even like a super trivial thing. So my purpose is I have no reason to trade. So I'm over here thinking, okay, like, I lose $10. It's truly trivial. I mean, it's well within my risk tolerance of my income. But what's the point, right? If I make $100, what am I going to do with that $100? Is that going to move my principal enough? Is it worth my, 30 minutes to sit here at the open and even care to try to make $100? Is it going to affect my income off of my principal? No. Am I going to risk my principal? No. And so it's like, what am I really trying to accomplish to give me in the trader headspace? It really is just, your emotions directly tied to it. And so to me, it's just not worth it. Not to say that, again, I don't have cash flow. If I had cash flow and it wasn't on fixed income and I wasn't the victim of crime, I would be actively trading. But for me, it's just, I just have no motivation. Or not no motivation, but no, because if I had a good trading day, made a couple grand, that would be a good trading day. It's like, what's the point? It's not going to move my principal on fixed income to matter. And if I make another $1,000, like I said, I don't need anything or really want anything. And so secure the capital as well as possible on the SGov. Guarantee that income. It's state and local tax exempt. But again, I truly have never cleared more than $12,500 of net income to even file taxes. And I'm the victim of crime, and I've been carrying on damages from this crime for a decade. So it's like, when does any of this shit really matter or care? I don't know. That's the whole point. It's like, I don't know. I'm still an organism trying to survive. But this makes the most sense to me. Again, like I said, we're looking at Duolingo. This $10, I play Relief. You have one of these stocks that come out and they trade down substantially. Then I play the Relief rally. But again, like I said, I'm not providing any new insight, right? Try to catch a falling knife is what I'm doing. Or if I'm selling the news, right? I'm selling the news. It's a phrasing you hear in trading all the time. So I'm not providing any new insight. And that's why, like I said, when I got back into this, quote unquote, active managing or just trading in general, it was to provide insight and to provide things. But my biggest thing from an economic standpoint is the human behavior is not consolidated enough and policy is not consolidated enough to have anything besides a trading thesis, which is basically do the best you can, do a lot of research, put yourself into a position, be in the game, so to speak, have your money in the market, but then just manage it well, cut your losses where you can as fast as possible, let your winners run. But again, that terminology is already in the lexicon of trading and investing. So it's like I'm not providing any new insight. And for me to go and sit down outside and not have to worry about watching a stock jiggle up and down, and just to go do a math video is so much more rewarding and poignant for me at this point. So I'm pretty much packing it in on the trading. Like I said, I'll do maybe $100 a month, just pick one stock where it's like a big movement, like Duolingo. It's like I said, it has tons of revenue. It's well established in like a company you've heard of. It's like I'll pop on and do this trade, craps out, then just go about my day. But I'm not gonna watch the opens much more. Bro, I'm that old head over here with my SGov, and I'm happy about it. That's what I'm saying. Is like if I even, with all things considered, if I can just have that in the 2,000 without property tax or without a big rent payment, it's enough for me just to focus on scientific research. Which, believe it or not, over this whole period, everything on my YouTube channel is just me trying to establish financial stability to focus on doing research. Which is insane that I have to do this, but that is my portfolio construction. That's what I wanted to go over. the $550,000 is not going to move off of SGov. We SGov and chilling for sure, because like I said, that's that estimated 26,725, and obviously can go up or down with the interest, and will go up or down with the interest rate, but should be around that amount. Then with the 10,000 kicker, 33 to 35,000 for the next 3 years. It's kind of what I'm chilling at. I might do some. So I might do again if there's any economic things that come up, I'll definitely make a video on them. But so for like just ETFs in general, closed-end funds, these are all funds that besides SGov, these other ones are just the S&P is an income fund based on the S&P 500. QQI is based on the NASDAQ 100. This WPay is kind of a newer one. I mean, all of these are pretty new, but these are newer ones where this one pays weekly. All these other ones pay out monthly. Literally, if you hold the Treasury bond, you can just go look at let's pull up the chart, and I will show you. And so, because like a lot of people might think of just like as simple as the mechanics, right? You're used to looking at a stock chart, and then you come over and you see this, and you're like, what am I looking at? Right? This is just the beginning of the month, and just climbs up every time. And here's where you get paid out. Right? You'll see some new buzzwords: ex-dividend, which is another word salad. Just the date prior. I'm assuming it's the close of the United States stock market, because it's still not clear on Schwab. We're still not clear with our financial terms. That's not surprising. But you start out here, and so it compounds daily. And so if you need to, it's extremely liquid. Like if you need to sell your money, I could sell it right now for this profit. But if you hold it out through the whole month, you'll still own whatever your base amount of Treasury bonds you bought, but then the dividend, the interest will be paid to you in cash. It'll just show up in your cash balance. So then when they say reinvest the dividends, they just mean literally just buy the same thing. And so for Treasury bonds, your chart's going to look like this. From the QQI, which is the NASDAQ 100 income fund. And so what they're doing here is, I'm not going to go through these strategies because I just do enough research on something like this to know it's legitimate. I don't actually care about the option strategies. And so these are covered called funds. I believe it's just covered calls. Again, but that's my bad if I'm not researching the things that I own. But it's just, you take the top 100 NASDAQ stocks and you own the shares, the fund owns the shares, and then they trade options around this, around the ownership. So when anything's a put or an option, that's a covered put or an option, they own the underlying. And so that's the terminology you're going to see. It's called a closed-end fund. You have, when you're trading option spreads, if you're not a total idiot, or you have a guaranteed wins or wins or losses, like it's bounded. And so there's a maximum you can lose and a maximum you can make. And obviously when people are like, well, why wouldn't everybody do that? Well, because it caps your upside as well. And so when you're looking at, the tech sector, like look at Micron this morning, up came down after the open. But, so if you're in a closed-end fund, you're not going to see this appreciation of over 100% in 6 months. But for me, like I said, it doesn't matter. If I put $10,000 on it and I make $10,000, great, fantastic. But now if I were to lose that money, and, I'm talking me specifically, that would have way more detriment to my lifestyle as opposed to if I made $10,000. The $10,000 would just go back into SGov, and, that's giving me another $40 a year. So it's not like it's not moving. Whereas for example, if I buy Micron and it decreases 50%, I'm out of 50% of capital and if the stock has no dividend. Now, some of equities pay dividends. And to be specific to the terminology, I don't like when people call dividends and effectively like interest. I don't like dividends and interest. To me is distinctly different in an economic sense. So like I would say I'm making interest on my treasury bonds, and a dividend comes from a stock profit, but I don't see dividends and interest as being mutual or interchangeable. But point being is they will call the interest payout for a treasury bond a dividend, but it doesn't really matter. But linguistically, it doesn't make any sense. But point being is, so that's the question, right? So if I buy this, right, you might say, like, what is it effectively just trades exactly like a stock, but you see this depreciation. So if you put $100,000 here and it goes from, trying to use whole numbers so it's easy, 50 down to 40, you've lost 20%. And so you'll still be getting a dividend, and you can see these dividend numbers here, 61 cents per share, 59 cents per share. So again, if you own 100 shares, that's 59 cents per share, 59 bucks. And this is a paid out monthly. So you'd get $59 monthly, but you've decreased 20%, so you've lost $20. So you get $5 in a dividend, but you've lost 20% in they're called a NAV. That's another another buzzword acronym you'll get, but net asset value. What is this thing totally worth overall? I mean, so because then they'll calculate how much dividend you get paid out and the appreciation or depreciation of the fund itself. And so, to me, like I said, if tech has a big sell off, which I expect, but again, by no means guaranteed. I mean, it comes down here like it did in April. I might try to like effectively day trade these things, but just try to catch a bottom here, because if it's paying out a dividend on a diversified fund, again, you're not risking the depreciation from your NAV. They call it NAV erosion, but you're not risking your principal on one stock that pays a dividend, but a fund that distributes, and you're still getting paid that dividend. Because you could buy this fund and it guarantees you. I don't know if this one's not guaranteed, but there's a ton of these funds out there. And it can it guarantees you, or you're for sure going to get X amount of dividend. But if you put $500,000 on something and you depreciate $50,000 or 50%, you're down $250K. But to me, right, if I were to have more exposure into Bitcoin, which I had about 70 grand, sold most of that off in there, put it all into SGov. And so like that's not paying me a dividend. That's not paying anything. So you have this depreciation risk, and I put that in quotations because every decision, anywhere you put your money is at risk. And so it's just risk reward. How much is there? And so my point being is if you have a diversified fund and you do have this depreciation, you're still getting paid a dividend from a diversified area, not from one company. One company can go out of business, but if you're spread out everything, and then again you're betting the entire United States goes out, it's like again you'd have bigger problems if that's going on anyway. And so that is my overall breakdown. Again, I might reallocate if this has a huge drawdown, this QQI, SPYI. I don't think I won't do the Bitcoin income fund. I would rather just hold Bitcoin, and I still have like 20 grand in there. But that's really I'm pretty much tapped out after this. I have like $30,000 that's not in these index funds or these income funds. But like I said, I have no desire or care or consideration to upside growth. I just want some amount of income so I can go make a science video and look at animals. But that's what I have to say today. Again, like I said, I did play and did want to cover briefly but this is I just see this as oversold and let's try to buy. But then if you lose money, the cliche is, you try to catch a falling knife, which sure I did. Go for it. But that's just, again, you just have tight stop losses. If this were to have gone into a profit, I would have put a hard stop loss or a trailing stop loss on these relief plays. I typically like them until about noon, and then I typically think that the direction they're trading is going to continue. Meaning, another one I traded was QURE, a pharmaceutical company that comes out, and they're thinking they're going to have some drug that does something. They get a big appreciation, and then they're waiting on the FDA to rule on something. And so if it comes out well, it's going to go up to $300 a share. If it comes out bad, it's going to crater. Comes back bad, and I did want to show you the difference between Duolingo and a stock like this. And so this one is pure. I mean, it either hits a home run or it pretty much goes to zero. So I don't know it's a pharmaceutical company. I don't know if it has a product pipeline, so to speak, or just like research in the works. But point being is this could have gone, when it has this initial appreciation, it could have gone from $60 to $300 a share, or to zero. It would have surprised me zero. And so I tried to short this a couple times. Failed on the initial appreciation. It comes out, it misses this FDA approval, huge tank down. And then I tried to play what did I try to play? I forget if I tried to play the relief. Oh no, so this one I didn't. I also failed on this one. Classic Brad failing at stocks. But anyway, so I tried to play this one, like Duolingo. I played the relief to the long, like the minus $11 you saw was me going long on the stock. This one I tried to short it because I just saw this as dead in the water. Whereas Duolingo, it has real revenue that basically just tanked after earnings, so it's effectively you're looking at the stock after the sell the news reaction. And so Duolingo, I expect to have an appreciation throughout the day, or at least up until noon. I would have had a trailing stop loss or a hard stop loss on that. This one, QURE, I expected just to go to the ground. And so I didn't expect. Now, obviously, to think about it, right? You have all of these people that have invested in this huge range. And so the only thing you're pretty much guaranteed is volatility. Not up or down, just volatile. But for something like this, I played it to the short side, and Duolingo I played it to the long side, for the express reason that I expected this just to kind of crap out. Again, you're going to have some relief buying for all of these stocks, pretty much expected, because of how much value has changed hands between $60 a share and $10 a share in one overnight session, or not even a session, but just overnight. And so that's why I played that short, and I typically play those short if I play them at all. And it has come down, but it's pretty much flatlined. And so any of these huge moves like this, they pretty much flatline for the rest of the day. But again, going back over to Duolingo, again, I have no perspectives, especially on these stocks where it's like, I don't even agree with the overall economics of how they're valued, right? But there's no real reason, should this be valued at 15 times earnings or 15 times net cash flow, or I have no insight at all, and nobody does. So this could go, why was it at $500? I don't know. Why is it at $188? I don't know. Is the net increase they announced yesterday $5 net share, was that expected to the analysts? I don't know. It's like, what factors really matter? Is this going to go down? Is it going to go up? I have no idea. Do I have enough conviction on any aspect of this stock specifically? Nope. And so it's just like, that's why you have tight stop losses. You put yourself in the game, but you don't bet too big. And then, so that's just even for what people call the middle market or the high cap or these big stocks. It's just like, I have more confidence truly in, like I said, having extremely conservative allocation, SGov, treasury bonds, and then actively day trading these huge volatile movements as opposing to buying the S&P 500, right? Because you can take the most vanilla financial advisor right now today, and then they say, buy the S&P, and then all of this carnival shit happens, and then you're up 8% at the end of the year, and then you go into your bank, and he's wearing a suit, and he's like, yes, sir, and you're using all your formal languages. We appreciated 8% based off the total asset return of assets under management, using all of this fancy language, basically to say, yeah, the stock market went up, and that's all because the population's going up. More people are buying more stuff, so stuff goes up more. That's really the fundamental thing that's changing. And so economics is crazy. It's fun. I just don't have enough cash flow to really meaningfully participate at the moment. Because like I said, I would rather be starting these companies, man. I can just go file a LLC down at the courthouse, and then I own all the shares of a company. I just have to convince people that it's worth shit, which is all you're looking at. That's all you're really looking at with these stocks. And so, like I said, my rights being violated, it affects me tremendously as a founder, as a business owner, even more so than a trader. And so it's like, I'm participating the best I can. Look at here. I'm over here carrying the burden of the United States Treasury. I'm holding all of your debt. $500K. But you get what I'm saying. And so that's my economic insights for today. But this middle market stuff, like I said, the big trend that I have is I have one small holding, this MNMD. And so if you said, Brad, what is the biggest fundamental development you see possible? Like I said, originally it was Bitcoin, but I see that just coupled to a tech trade basically at this point, which is a good thing for overall adoption. For the price trading it, I don't know. I definitely still think it will go up. I definitely think currency is still not well defined, and Bitcoin is still currency. But these economic developments take way longer than one person's lifetime. That's even a question. How do you calibrate genuine change of a market? Is no one's even begun to make progress on that question. And so, but my point being is fundamentals, you have fundamentals and trading aspects. What I mean is, you see your pharmaceutical companies, like QURE is a pharmaceutical company. So it comes out and it's going to appreciate because it's going to cure this, right? So that trade of this big pharma is kind of going to decrease in terms of the way it's presented right now. But whereas in these quote unquote alternative sciences, like is cannabis medicine, obviously, is psilocybin, which actually, again, for psilocybin, for all of you idiots out there, that's your magic mushrooms. Um, but you actually metabolize it into psilocin. So psilocin is actually the active metabolite. But point being is that the fundamental science of what those things do is legitimate. It's bona fide. It's proven. I'm the guy who proved it mathematically, not just me saying it experientially. But assessing the overall reaction and behavior of the species. And so the science is certified there. And so my point being is from a trader, you're going to have these huge appreciations that you see in this pharmaceutical sector with actually fundamental science backing it. And so the biggest go long and schlong with the what are quote unquote alternative medicine sector. Whether that's MNMD is the one that does it, but it will be a basket appreciation. Spread out your eggs. This is the next thing, guaranteed. One because the science is already there, and you come out and Donald Trump or whoever whoever the president or dominating political figure is in your country, the science is universal and the value's there and the production cost is zero. I mean, it's not, like for mushrooms specifically or cannabis, because cannabis does the growing it, right, requires a lot of water. But like just specifically cannabis versus psilocybin, the manufacture of psilocin is so much easier and less cost intensive. It's literally a fungus. Whereas in cannabis, you have to worry about pests and plant disease. Fungus is like the manufacture is a lot less as well. That doesn't really matter for big pharmaceutical companies. But point being, well, I guess it does. Cost always matters. But point being is this has the best. This is literally just a change that will happen in context of a market. It's the next thing to go quick. Because the fundamental science is already there. The populace knows, like the demand is already there, and it's just the policy for both cannabis still. But cannabis is kind of seen. It's a I don't want to say it's because like none of these like the whole pharmaceutical sector is going to change tremendously, and that is literally as soon as people stop lying about fundamental science in everything. When is that? I have absolutely no confidence ever. So, but point being is like this is I'm long here, but again still small. It's like $5,000, and so but that's really my only exposure. But point being is I'll have this one little section here. 95% of my portfolio on fixed income, treasury bonds, and then an occasional day trade. And that's my portfolio construction. Again, I'm the victim of crime. I keep saying that because it's directly relevant to everything I'm doing financially. And it's just not worth my time or my headspace, not the time to just sit here and watch these things jiggle around. I would much, like I said, I'd love to do something with the IMF, International Monetary Fund, but really begin to pose and answer big regulatory and economic questions as what's the economy going to do in its entirety, not this day-to-day bullshit day trading stuff. Which I do like. I said, there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely money. If my life wasn't what it was and I had a job for 80 grand, I would absolutely do this. Like I said, I would probably do more swing trading, so to speak, but your entries and exits are always going to be the day trading mentality, and they should be. Right? Even if you're dollar cost averaging, even if you're buying stuff for 10 years, buy and hold, there's no point. Right? It always makes sense to sell something that's going to go down, and it always makes sense to buy something that's going to go up. It's the timing aspect that's the big question in finance. So that's my insights for today. That is my portfolio construction. Probably won't do too many more finance videos unless something comes up. And with that being said, that's it for here on finance, and I'll see you over in math class and education class. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.